Three shots, four shots, five shots,
We did it.
We did it.
I mean, we're like it played, and then when the guitar stuff came in, it like gets quieter. But that might be a mixing thing. But we did you could still hear it, so that deserves our first shot. Hold on.
So, cheers. Oh,
cheers. Cheers.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, J. Rami. Well, so we got the music. We got the day, but we didn't have the time, right? Which is my fault. But I have come across some very interesting information about. I was on a show with McAuliffe Cigars, and I've smoked some of their stuff this weekend. And we decided that it was the inspiration for our Give a Shit segment, which we'll get to in a second. But I just want to introduce us again. My name's Tony. This is Jeremy. And this is Four Shots. It's supposed to go on every Tuesday at 8, the Eastern Standard Time. I screwed it up this week, but I had a very important conversation and a very good one, which we'll get to, about the Give a Shit segment. So we got all that stuff out of the way. Basically what we do here is we take 4 shots during the show. We get progressively more intoxicated, a little bit looser.
A little loosey-goosey.
A little loosey-goosey. And we also have some fun segments that vary from show to show. This episode is about Cubans and what we think about them. And we have an important segment coming up after a story that I have about this weekend. We have a very special guest, Drew from Small Batch Cigars, which is a very, very, very dear friend of ours. Very, very big supporters of what we and a lot of our industry friends like to do, which is smoke cigars. But anyway, I just got back from a road trip, Jeremy, that was very interesting. We went to Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Ann Arbor, and Detroit, and then back to Youngstown. We left Detroit. We got up and had meetings at 8 a.m. It's now 9 p.m., and I'm still working because that's how hard I work for us.
I put on a clean shirt.
And that, yeah, it was big. Last time you didn't have a shirt on at the beginning, but then you had your heavy metal unicorn shirt on that your daughters got you. Yeah.
Yes. But they also picked this out. I was like, hey, I want to get something for the summer. And they were like, oh, you should get this. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I'm like sporting. It's very summery. It has little anchors on it.
Oh, because you have a boat.
Yes, see, it's like tiny little anchors that are multicolored. I'm what you call fashion forward, my friend.
You are very fashionable. You are very fashionable. So the real quick give a shit segment. I hung out with the guys from McAuliffe Cigars just recently and this weekend, and I've been smoking a lot of their stuff, and that's what I'm smoking today. We were talking about maybe, just something good that's happened this week for us, and maybe something weird that has happened this week for us as well. And when we check in with Zach later, I'll have him tell the full story. because I don't really remember all of it. But I do know that I fell off of a scooter in Indianapolis 4 times and set off a fire alarm trying to run up a fire escape in an alley. But we'll get to that later. Let's.
Well, can I interrupt real quick? I think that Zach, when we did the show on Thursday, you used Zach's laptop, did you not?
I used my laptop. That was my laptop.
Or the iPad. You signed in with something with Zach because we have a mystery poster in the stream here that's posting under our name, but I'm not posting those things. And I'm wondering if our buddy Zach is accidentally logged in from his trip with you. He just said, "Bless you both." Zach, are you out there? I don't see you in the chat, and I'm wondering, oh, he's right there.
But he's not on the 4 shots thing. And I'm not typing in it. I mean, Drew might be. That's possible.
We have a ghost amongst us. Steve, FYI, I have lots of collared shirts. They're just all plaid shirts. I wear tons of collared shirts that are plaid.
Oh, it is Zach.
Holy shit.
There's like a 30-second delay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we all back?
Because Zach's an admin on the thing. That's why he's commenting.
Oh.
Yeah.
So maybe he should leave.
I get it now. He gets it.
All right. I didn't know what was going on.
Okay. So we had one hiccup so far, but it was Zach's fault, so we move forward. Anyway, the ladder thing, he figured it out. The ladder thing happened. Jeremy, you don't know the story yet, but Zach will tell it later. Let's introduce our first guest and talk about Cubans. What do you think?
Well, we have questions for him, so we could do that and ask him the questions.
Well, I would say we have to introduce him first, probably, before we start asking him questions.
No, I mean to talk about Cubans. I thought that was a separate thing, but we can do that with him.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's bring him on, talk about Cubans, see where it goes. Yeah. I mean, there he is. Drew, small batch.
Everyone, this is Andrew.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I thought you were introducing somebody about Cubans.
Yeah, well, Tony decided to throw you into the fire. So you get to be a part of this conversation, and we have our questions that we want to ask you as well.
Awesome.
So
well, thanks for having me.
What?
Our pleasure, man. Our pleasure.
Why don't you before we get into the Cuban thing, then why don't you tell us, because we've asked this to our 1,000 guests we've already had on. What was your first smoking experience?
Do you know the deli shop that was off of Tustin, the Boar's Head? You know, like where you used to live off of Palmyra area?
Mm-hmm.
So I used to walk by that liquor store when I was a kid, sandwich shop, and that's where I actually bought my first cigar. And I don't really remember too much about it, but I just remember me and my buddy, when we were old enough, bought a cigar there. Probably horribly stored. They used to have like a little side walk-in thing.
I remember that.
Yeah. And we went to a park and we sat down and smoked a cigar. So it wasn't anything wow, but it was that's the first cigar experience I had.
You know that is an incredible lead-in to the Cuban thing, because that store for a long time, because I'd go there to get beer, I'd walk there.
Mm-hmm.
They had they were selling Cohiba Cubans that were not legitimate, but they had a sign up in the humidor that was like authentic Cubans, and they were like the worst made, like fakes. The bands were like, photocopied almost to that level. And I remember the first time I've already been in the smoking for a while, so I didn't fall prey to it, although I have fallen prey to that before. Everyone does in their smoking experience, but I always thought it was so funny that they were advertising that they had Cubans, that they had the real deal there.
And sandwiches.
Yeah. And pretty good sandwiches.
Yeah.
And for back in the day, a good selection of beer.
They did. Yes. I think that was the first place I ever bought Stone Brewing. Or I could find it locally, was there.
I used to buy my Sammy Claus there around
Oh,
Christmas
okay.
time.
So I don't know if you guys saw this because he didn't comment directly in the thing, but Rob just commented, last time this shit occurred, Tony didn't show up the next day for the company Zoom meeting. We have to change the meeting day of the week, or you guys change yours. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry to interrupt, but it was hilarious.
So, let's see. So let's talk.
So we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah,
As well.
Let's talk about
I think we should preface that. Yeah.
And Drew, what do you do? And Jeremy and Drew, how do you guys know each other?
So I met Jeremy obviously at Maximar when I was a customer. He actually sold me my first lighter and cutter back in the day, and basically just knew you from hanging out there. You were like, the sometimes opener and closer. So you'd be there kind of all day or all night, and I would hang out there a lot during college, and that's how I met Jeremy.
Yeah, it's funny to interview someone that you actually know really well, and that we come from the shop that I came from is the same shop that he'll explain. He ended up, developing small batch. This was after I left, but I mean, we had known each other, and then we went like that, and he went into and so it's kind of funny. We've known each other for many years now.
And I think the lead into kind of small batch, or at least kind of how it came to be, or what I do is, when I think you especially were crucial, probably bringing in kind of boutique cigars back then. There was you and Keith, who were basically bringing in stuff from the trade show that were these smaller brands that nobody knew about. And not a lot of people at the shop bought them, so it was always bought in small quantities. And I remember trying my first Viaje when we finally got those in. So small batch was kind of born out of that kind of hesitant boutique movement in Maximar, and the lack thereof of getting more of it. Especially with Viaje, a good example is it took forever for Maximar to get that, and then once we ran out, there was nowhere else to get them. At least locally. So kind of small batch came kind of from that concept of being able to get access to boutique cigars more regularly. At that time I was part of Puff, which still exists, and then back in the day Cigar Asylum was pretty popular. Those were like the two big cigar forums. So tracking down boutique stuff, that was the only way I could do it outside of Maximar.
There's something I think crucial that we forgot, and I don't know if I told you that. Do you have a drink? Do you want to do a shot with us?
I don't. I have water and a cigar. You didn't tell me to bring booze, but I will take a sip of water with you.
Tony, this is for our guest and friend, and he's drinking water. That's okay. He just worked out.
It's fine. It's fine. He's to our dearly departed friend.
Yes. Pour some out for the homies.
Zach's doing one, so I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. So is it a shot every segment?
No,
or every transition?
It's supposed to be four shots. Thus far, we have not. We go way.
We've not stayed there. It's supposed to be. We had fully intended that we were going to stick to a tighter schedule this episode. It's already gone off the rails. But we were going to do one shot per segment, and maybe some extras thrown in if the chat demands it.
Well, it's been 20 minutes. I mean, if we do one shot every 20 minutes,
it's been 13 minutes.
It's been now. It just crossed over to 14 minutes. We don't know what clock Tony is using. He's like, "Come on, you were the one who Rob was like, you didn't show up." So
I was working. Actually, the truth to that is I was at work. Okay.
Well, we don't even know what you guys are doing shots of this week. You guys were like running right through it. So Tony, what is it you're even drinking tonight?
I'm drinking Tito's, but my last couple of shots are going to be from this wonderful gin that Jeremy brought me back from Canada. Yeah.
Which is actually when I got this shot glass.
And I promise you all, it's not pee, even though it looks like it. It's made with cloudberry, wild rose tip, Labrador tea, crowberry, and Nordic juniper. All things I know very well. Uh, and and for some reason it's colored like urine. So we'll get to that later because I don't know if I could do that right now.
I had some Irish whiskey in the cupboard, and I didn't want to be doing shots of something high end. So, but it's solid. You know,
I
it
have
works. It's an Irish whiskey.
Zaya
See, you
rum.
actually got some goods. My like, what kind of water is that? Is it from the Nordic Springs of?
Is it Orange County tap? Is that what it is?
It's reverse osmosis water. You know, got a little system. Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, let's get you guys into your first question proper, because we were going to talk about the fucking Cuban conundrum, the Cuban enigma. Because anybody who smokes cigars, whether you like boutique cigars, whether you have been smoking cigars with your grandpappy from 30 years ago, and whatever, the Cubans are like the cloud that hangs over the cigar industry. And I think part of the reason why it came up tonight, or like why we wanted to talk about it, is like, first off, why is it that Cubans hang like the cloud over the entire industry? Why is that the thing that is kind of, even people who don't fucking smoke cigars, they'll be like, well, it's not as good as a Cuban. I try to talk to them about this or that. They'll be like, well, if you tried this, it's a real Cuban, and it just fucking pisses me off.
So I'll say one little piece. It's just simply to say it's because it's the forbidden fruit. Because if you've been around cigars long enough, what the industry produces, we'll say domestically, anything outside of Cuba, is far superior construction wise. Flavors are more broad as far as what you'll get out of a cigar. And, Cuba is like something that's respected. Like I've had some very good cigars. I'm sure you will both attest to that. And I've had a lot of very ordinary ones. In the same way that's happened with domestic cigars. But the thing is that it's like, to me, it's always been like the forbidden fruit, like it's something you can't get. So that makes it more esteemed or higher value, like someone drinking Courvoisier or something,
or Pappy. Pappy's not really that much better, right? I mean, it's you can't find it, and its normal retail value is say, $20, right? But then you see it on the secondary market, it's $200. But is Pappy really that much better? And I think it goes back to what you were saying about that forbidden fruit. You just can't get it, so then everybody wants it, and then it becomes this, sort of taboo booze. When our parents were growing up, you could buy Pappy at the liquor store for like $7.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I think the scarcity and with Cubans is sort of the same thing, and you have to get them outside the United States, which means you were traveling, or you have a connection, or you got a guy. It makes you feel so much cooler because you have this connection to that forbidden fruit.
What's
Tony,
interesting oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Tony, did you experience kind of the same thing I know you're well experienced in wine, the same kind of thing with wine, right? So when you're talking to guys on the East Coast, they're talking about the California Cab collection, or if you're talking to guys on the West Coast, they're talking about the French wine collection. It's kind of the same thing. I feel like they have a guy, or they have a connection, or they're on this wine list or whatever, right?
True. I couldn't agree with you more. So I had the pleasure. So I went to this random wine dinner and I love this guy, and he was, oh man, Bo Barrett. His name was Bo Barrett. I almost lost his name there for a second. But Bo Barrett, if you've ever seen the movie Bottle Shock, he was the main character in Bottle Shock. And so when I was in wine school, I heard of this like wine dinner with Bo Barrett, and it was before the movie even came out. But I was like, I have to go to this thing, and I was like 22 years old. So I go to this dinner, and everybody's in like a suit and a tie, and it's real like super wine stuffy, and they're like, oh, Bo Barrett's going to be here. And I ended up at a table by myself because I was like really young and single, and like didn't give a shit about the pretentious nature of all of this stuff, right? So he comes in late because he was he decided to, instead of stopping in Cleveland, he flew to North Carolina because there was a hurricane he wanted to surf. Now the guy's like 60. So he surfs this hurricane, misses his flight, lands in Cleveland, and tries to do this PowerPoint presentation. And he has no idea how to use PowerPoint. So he's just standing there in front of all these people in suits that are like these pretentious wine people. And he's like, fuck the PowerPoint. Here's the deal. So he goes through, talks about everything. And then he doesn't have anywhere else to sit but next to me. So now I'm sitting next to like this icon, like this guy that has changed the entire California wine industry, from it only being French wine to it only being California. Now his wife, Heidi Barrett, was the winemaker and owner of Screaming Eagle. So I asked him, I'm like, what's the deal with Screaming Eagle? Like, why is it getting $3,000 a bottle? And he's like, and he looked at me dead in the face and he's like, because that's what people fucking pay for it. And I was like, because I've never had it, right? So like my mind's blown. And I'm like, well, what do you drink at home? He's like, we drink Chateau Montelena, Zinfandel, and Chard at home. He's like, we don't drink that shit. You know why? Because we get $3,000 a bottle for it. And I could buy 300 bottles of Chateau Montelena. So that's another example of that forbidden fruit, right? So you have Screaming Eagle, that's this like esteemed wine that everybody will pay all this money for, and the winemakers, I'm not saying that that it's not good. I'm just saying it's not $3,000 good.
No, it's good. Yeah.
And the same with Washington and Oregon wines. Washington and Oregon makes great wines. They still have gravel driveways, you're pulling up to, and Napa now is like Disneyland. So, you had Prisoner go from $20 a bottle to $70 in the past 5 years because of that. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on the wine thing. Thanks, Drew. I appreciate you asking me that. Of course.
Yeah, no, I have a somewhat passion for wine, so it's always kind of fun to hear about that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's interesting because while you guys are saying all this, I decided to do a little research in looking at our history of cigars information. Like, cigars don't originate from Cuba. Like, tobacco plants, according to, fucking history or whatever, it's like Hispaniola, the island that was originally called Hispaniola, which is Haiti and the Dominican Republic, is supposedly where like the heart of tobacco originated as a plant, was found by Europeans, and then they transplanted everywhere. So does anybody know why Cuba, like, we know that it got popular in America, cigars, because the laws, became this forbidden fruit thing. But how as an industry, not just as consumers, but how as an industry did it become such this domineering component when it's not even really like the place that it originated? Like, I have trouble understanding how it kind of took that role.
It didn't, but it did, because they're like, your first factory, right, was actually like Sevilla, right? That was actually producing cigars in Spain. Dominican precedes like cigar manufacturing by like 20 or so odd years, but like there was something magical about the soil and the mixture and the tobacco that came out of Cuba, and it was just better than what anything else was coming out. And that was absolutely a truth. It's just that over the years, you got to think about an island that, like, it's a small place and they continue to grow. And take any crop, if you don't give the soil like the ability to rest. And so like you can't constantly be planting tobacco over tobacco. You need something to like put nutrients back into the soil. So, I mean, essentially it's just been diminishing decades over decades, that soil. And so it's not what it once was. But I mean, I've never smoked, I've smoked Cubans, but I've never smoked what would be considered the heydays, like in the 60s and 70s cigars or Cubans. And even if we did now, it would be a very different cigar because it's 30 plus years, 40 years older. So it's a totally different beast. But I mean, it's like anything. It's an agricultural product, and they really did produce the best. And so they are kind of our forefathers of the industry. I mean, all of our manufacturers, this is what we touched on last week, most of them all came from there. The Padron family, Davidoff was originally making Cuban cigars, even though they were in Switzerland, but the list goes on as far as the old manufacturers that like they were producing there, and then moved out, to Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican, Costa Rica, all these different areas that they found. Just like with California wines, like in the 80s, everything was Italian wines. Everything, like, they make the best. And California was like, we have different growing climates. We're going to do it. And they did it. And now California kicks the shit out of like competitions because it's just a different profile. It's coming from a different amount of sun hitting it, different climate, different this. So, I mean, it's no different with tobacco, like Nicaragua has its primary kind of taste you get out of the soil. So does the Dominican, so does Honduras. And so it's kind of, I think what once was, we revere it because it's like, that's the forefathers of cigars, like, Cuba, but it's absolutely not the case anymore,
Well, I think to add to your point, Jeremy, sorry, Brandon, real quick. So there's only been besides America, right? America has its own kind of strains of tobacco, like burley and stuff like that. They were never really used for cigars, like until the 20th century when we were using Connecticut tobacco. But originally, the Dominican Republic had over 120 varietals of tobacco. Cuba had one, and it was Corojo. So to touch on a couple points that Jeremy brought up, and I think they're very, very good points. So in the span of time that Cuba has been growing tobacco, their technology has never changed, right? So that's why they have like the 50 Chevys. Like, they have not seen outside technology or American technology since the 50s. So like with our stuff, and I'm sure a lot of others, like Americans were using American universities to show them good agricultural practices. We're using American things and American ideas that are advancing Dominican Republic, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And I think that, to your point exactly, they're not planting competing crops. They don't know agriculture like we know it in 2020. They know it like we knew it in 1950. So they're growing tobacco like they grew then. So it was good then. And like you said, it's like a diminishing return, right? Every Cuban crop that's grown is less better than the previous one. So then you have to add on to that, like you said, you have a group of guys that are born in Cuba that realize that no matter how hard they work, they're never going to make any money. So they find, like you said, different regions in South America and Pan America where you can grow these seeds and produce the same quality tobacco in a different climate, and sometimes even produce better. And I think that that's ultimately, like, you're losing your master blenders, you're losing your best growers, and you have no technology. So that immediately is like this massive diminishing return, right? So now Cubans today, like, I haven't smoked one in a while that wasn't either plugged or unsmokable, right? So I think that's you have the allure, and then you have like, no, it's like blue balls, right? So you have the allure of this beautiful thing, and you're like, oh, it's so sexy, and like, oh, I'm gonna like make love to it, and then you do, and you don't get anything out of it, right? Because the tobacco is no good, and it's plugged, and it's no good.
You know what I was thinking is kind of like there was a question I wanted to ask Andrew, and I think it kind of, watch me try to reach to connect the dots here to ask the question. So, like, obviously when you talk about Cuban cigars, and then you talk about kind of the old guard of the classic brands, then you have the new wave of like boutique cigars, we'll just call them that. And then comes small batch into the picture. I mean, you've already had catalogs, your big boys, your CIs, your Thompsons, your JRs, but they weren't good fits for brands, smaller companies that don't produce as many cigars, that don't want to necessarily discount as heavily. They want to keep more control over their where their cigars are going, so that they know who is smoking their product. And there were websites, but prior to small batch, but what I think is super neat, it's a question, also kind of a comment to the thought process of, did you have any idea what it was going to be? Like how much it actually affected and changed our industry? The modern, like, you know, it's like you're the new California wine, and then it's the, you know, you got the Italian wine sitting over here that have been doing the same thing, and then up comes like small batch. Like, did you have any concept of what it would actually do? And we'll do a shot because it's time.
It was requested. I need a little bit more. Hold on. I kind of, I'm not gonna lie. I snuck a little bit. I got to make that 5 o'clock down and bags meeting tomorrow, though. You know.
All right, Drew, the platform's yours.
Yeah, Jan. That's a very generous intro to our explanation of small batch. But I did not know what it would become. I think it was, you know, it's grown out of the same thing that got me excited about the industry, which is, you know, community and connection and working with people that I like and trust. And I think that's why some of these smaller brands, we've been able to give them a voice or, you know, access to a community. Same thing with you. I mean, you know, you're with Caldwell. Obviously, it was a no-brainer to bring in your guys' product when you launched, but you had a community behind you that made it, you know, a success right from the start in the shop. And it was easy to tell that story and share that with people online. Yeah, so I had no idea what it would become. It was pretty much a hobby. I worked. Small batch started in 2012. I stopped doing my other job probably 3 years ago. So I did two things for 5 years, and built a really cool team. Shout out to my guys that, you know, support small batch, that kind of do all the stuff in the background. But I think it wouldn't have been what it is without the people that are part of the team. And you know, I guess the market was right for smaller companies as well. People were looking for that, and you know, there wasn't a place that was easy to get it or convenient or, you know, good at shipping. I remember when I bought stuff online, even though I was a small batch customer, there was stuff I couldn't, you know, get from Maximars. Or sorry, I was a Maximar customer, not a small batch customer. And the experience of getting that package wasn't what I was getting at the shop, right? It wasn't the same experience. So I think what I really wanted to bring to small batch was the experience that I had at Maximars, where, you know, it felt like I don't know, just a really good experience, right? I knew what I was getting with quality.
Apple experience. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like,
yeah.
Like from the moment you walk into that store, because you and I can both attest to this, like Amar is probably the best customer service. Like it's not about cigars. You walk in and 2 seconds later, you're family. And then 3 seconds later, you've got a cigar in your mouth. And 4 seconds later, there's an espresso in your hand. And it's purely out of generosity, not to do anything other than, like, you walked in his doors. He just wants to make you welcome. And that's why it became my home shop, it became your home shop. And then it's why we end up wanting to, like, how do we help grow this business? Because, like, we love it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to explain kind of why small batch started. It was trying to create that same experience online. And I think we've done some, you know, some things there that are, you know, we have success there. And I love working with, you know, these younger manufacturers, you know, like, you know, Caldwell Cigars, Warped, Dapper, these guys that are younger and up and coming. And that was kind of a different, so Amar has these relationships with these kind of historic brands, you know, Padron, Davidoff, General, and I wasn't part of those relationships from the get-go. So I'm nobody, right? To them, they don't really connect the dots, right? That small batch, they just think it's Amar. Where I've built these relationships with these other companies, and we've been able to kind of tell their story through our platform, and hopefully, you know, help give them success at the same time.
So we have a question from Alex Harding. Do you attribute the success of small batch to the same trends that allowed boutique companies to bring innovation to the industry? Did you hear?
I don't know how to answer that question. So do I attribute the success of small batch to the same trends that allowed boutique companies to bring innovation to the industry? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I think the small batch success has just been doing what I thought was missing and what I thought was right in the sense of, customer service, shipping things fast, being available to the customers as much as possible. So if I get an email at nighttime, and I can answer it, I will. If it's something that's about inventory or stock, obviously if I'm at home and it's 8 o'clock, I can't answer it. But I think our success is based on the relationship we've built with our customer and the experience. The experience for boutiques is, I can't really talk about that because I've never made a boutique cigar. I haven't been out that side of the business.
Well, you guys have done, if you talk about kind of where small batch has gone from where it started, we've done quite a few runs with you guys, and you have then since ventured out, and you have quite a few exclusives that have kind of now capitalized off of, all right, you have the platform for the boutiques, and then it kind of morphed into, okay, now we want exclusives and proprietary blends to us. So then it's definitely continually blossoming and growing into something bigger,
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, we're super thankful to be able to partner with all the different brands that have helped us make exclusives. And I think we're really proud of what we've been able to accomplish there. But again, it goes back to the knowledge and the creators of the cigars, right? I didn't, Robert, the Marble House, was a huge success for us. That's his baby.
Which was our first exclusive we did with anybody.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I mean, there's obviously they're behind the scenes doing more than, using their knowledge, and I'm on the front end working what I know how to do. So they're separate but together.
It's almost like small batch acts unofficially as a secondary marketing machine alongside of these companies, because we have our brand. Say brand X comes to you, and we'd like to get our cigars into small batch. So you discuss it, and then you do it, and then you start building a platform to help introduce those cigars. And then that you put them in samplers of a 5-pack that might be a random one to grab their attention towards it. And you end up not just making a sale, but you end up kind of marketing for the companies in a way. I mean, obviously you're getting the money, but it definitely does. It's kind of a co-op, so to speak.
Yeah. And Dave, who does does all our marketing, or basically, I wouldn't say marketing, but he kind of our brand manager for, he's taken over Instagram for me and Facebook, and does all our write-ups for us on the website and interviews. And he's really honed that. That's something that's not in my wheelhouse. And I recognize that I'm not even a huge fan of doing these kind of things because I don't feel like I have much to say behind, in front of a camera.
That's why I wanted you to do it.
I know. I actually was hoping when you called me today that you're like, oh man, sorry, we're not doing it. I was like, oh, okay, good.
Just Bellato's going to be an hour late. Don't worry about it.
For those of you that don't know, Drew is a very soft-spoken but emotional and a good guy, and he just wants to build things that are going to work. And so he's not the guy that typically gets on interviews. Typically of late, obviously Mike has been on the forefront of everything with small batch, and we all love Mike. We know Mike and we love him.
Yep.
Is Mike even watching?
Yeah, he is. He's commented.
Okay. All right. I haven't seen him comment.
The thing is that there's a time for that, and then it's I just you want to see the heart behind the what made it beat, and so I think it's important, even though you're not the guy that likes to necessarily be in the forefront, I wanted you to come on because I thought it would be a great because it's comfortable because we know each other, and two, it's just hopefully this interview is less an interview and more if Tony, you and I were sitting around shooting the shit, we would have probably talked about the wines and all that kind of stuff anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes it so great is that we can all do this together and we're all in it together, right?
Well,
Yeah,
we're
I think.
about.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Andrew.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to let everybody know we're about 10 minutes out from when we like to bring somebody from the chat onto the show and allow them to, say whatever they want to say, ask whatever questions they want to ask. The only caveat is that we've been talking that we're putting a hard cap on that 10 minutes. So you could be in the middle of your dissertation, but if you hit that 10-minute mark, we're cutting. You're booted. You're gone. It's not that we don't love you, not that we don't want you to watch the show and hang out with us, but we're having a hard capping out. This
There he is.
Yes. Hot mic.
So we're not doing the post-show thing? Is that
No, we might be able to leave them in the. This is something else that we talked about with Alexander Harding last week. Is that you get to be a part of the post-show, which is when the camera's off. You get
Like
to
when
talk to Jeremy.
It's like when
and-
we're in the locker room and we get naked because
yes?
we're wiping the sweat off.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is, and we in fact do get naked. We in
Yep.
fact do it. You just can't tell because I can't. It's a desktop camera. I can't.
Well,
move it.
I'm sure Jeremy and Brandon are naked currently. I know Drew just went for a run and they frown upon that in California, so I'm sure he has some sort of shorts on.
Tony, you know what I forgot to tell you?
What?
I mean, you guys might all somewhat enjoy this, but like, you know how you watch the news and they're always like, party. I mean, like business on top. Look,
Oh God.
I'm in my.
Oh yes.
I've always wanted to do an interview in my underwear, so you thought I get dressed up, but I had you all because I'm in my undies.
Oh shit! And people thought we were being too serious.
That's amazing. Yeah.
All right.
We also have to do the check-in with Zach thing or whatever if we're gonna do that, even though he's sitting right next to me.
So then-
Zach, we know where Zach is, but let's get to. I want to ask this one question around the table. I want to go through all three of you. Leading up, we got 8 minutes. In this 8 minutes, okay, chat. I'm putting this out there. I want you to post your first Cuban cigar that you smoked, and if it lived up to the hype or not. Just yes or no. Did it live up to the hype or not? And I'm going to pick somebody from the chat, and I'll send you a message to come on the show. But while I'm looking at the chat, starting with Tony, why don't you talk about your first Cuban cigar, and did it live up to the hype that had been created in your mind before you smoked it?
So number one, we lost when Jeremy did the rotation in his underwear. We lost 4 viewers of our 20, and then now we've regained 1, and I'm hoping we get back up to our 20. My first Cuban cigar was a Monte Cristo number 2, a real one, and it was a good cigar, man. I mean, it had flavor. It drew well. It had a ton of spice, and you could tell, you could tell it was Corojo because it had that like specific, distinct like Cuban Corojo taste. It was a good cigar. Was it $50? No. And I've had a real Bahique before. Is that a $100 cigar? I don't think so. Was it good? And if they were legal, here's the big question. So if these cigars were legal in the U.S., where would their price points be compared to where they are secondary market in the U.S., right? So where would a Bahique lay on a shelf compared to Padron or the Altadis Monte Cristo or the Altadis Romeo and Juliet? Like, where would these guys lay in that realm? In my opinion, I would say right around the same. Good cigars. They're not terrible. Like the construction wasn't terrible. The construction was good. It was a good cigar. It's nothing like what we make. And I'm just going to say that because, we make the best shit ever. But I'm just saying it's, it was a good cigar. That's what I got.
Drew, you're up.
Okay. Partagas Series D number 4. It was I was on vacation with my dad in the Caribbean, and I think the cigar was great because of the experience. I've had that cigar many times after, and it was never the same. So it wasn't expensive. It was bought from a Casa de Habana dealership. But I think the experience of, sitting on a beach with my father, made that cigar that, special, made it unique. Otherwise, if I was sitting here smoking it right now, I probably wouldn't think too much about it.
Jeremy, before you go, I have an interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have an interesting point to bring up with that. And Drew and I were talking about wine earlier, and I think it's a very important thing what Drew said. I think that it doesn't really matter what you're smoking, right? It matters the experience you're having. So like if you drank, it's about like that movie Sideways, right? And I won't get into the wine or details about it, but it is really about the smoking experience, right? So as long as you have a good product, it doesn't have to be like the best fucking cigar you've ever had. It just doesn't have to be the worst one.
Right.
So bad that you're like, this cigar sucks and therefore ruined my experience. But I think that in cigar culture, that's what's so important. So it's like, you remember, like if you ever smoked that cigar again, you would remember that experience. So
Of course. Yeah.
the cigar is not necessarily that much about the cigar as it is about the experience, right? So the cigar then becomes the experience.
Well, you're actually leading perfect segue into mine, because my very first Cuban cigar experience was I was in Orange County at a store. And at this point, I was buying like, say, $5 to $7 cigars max. I was 18 or 19 at this point. Maybe less than $5. Maybe we're like more the $3 to $7 price range. And the girl behind the counter pulls out this humidor and tells me about that. This is a pre-embargo Cuban, and it's $25. And I'm enamored by it, because I've never smoked a Cuban. It has no band on it. So I fall prey, right? I buy it. So I go home and I sit on my porch, and I sat in silence, and I had the most amazing experience. I don't remember anything about the cigar except it was strong as balls. Obviously, now being a more knowledgeable cigar smoker, it was obviously a fake cigar. But my experience, because I bought into the story, was amazing. It didn't matter what that cigar is. I don't remember anything taste profile about it except that it was strong, which obviously would be an impossibility for a 50-year-old cigar in that regard. But it just goes to show you, it's the experience. Like my favorite experience of smoking a Cuban is not much different than Drew's. I was in Japan, and my friend and I bought some Romeo short Churchills.
Petite double wide short Churchill.
Yeah. And we had this amazing time, and I came back and I ended up buying a box because it was so incredible. And when I smoked them, I wasn't there on the rooftop in Japan anymore. And it really painted the picture of like, oh man, it really is like, so much of it is the experience. It's not the cigar. I mean, as long as you make something solid, but you have a great experience around it, that cigar is a memorable cigar. And that's like what we're trying to do, right? Create memories and stuff. So it's funny because you did that whole segue, and it led to mine, which I smoked a fake cigar that was probably, if I smoked it now, I'd probably say it's trash, but it's an amazing moment, even though now I know it's fake.
So that leads to probably the conclusion of our Cuban discussion. Does it even fucking matter if it's real? And my answer is no.
I agree.
It doesn't. It does, as long as, I mean, if you cut it open and it's full of sawdust, then you have an issue. But hopefully you can taste that right away. If you're buying the glass top Cubans in the Dominican Republic, then you're going to have probably a bad experience. But the point is, at the end of the day, if it's Dominican, Nicaraguan, Honduran, Cuban, if it's a good cigar and it has a good story and it has good people behind it, then it's a great experience and ultimately a good cigar, right?
So with that, then, What? Huh? What?
I
What's
was
going
going to say we should do a shot because I don't think we've done 4 yet.
Oh, so I was gonna thank Drew and for like hanging with us. So I think it is a good transition because the conversation has been great, my friend. We love what you've done, your support for us, and more so just your friendship. So
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, gents.
And
yeah.
And Drew, while we're doing the shot, give yourself a little plug. Where do we buy your stuff? What do we do? Like, where do we go? Like, we're all dumb.
I actually had this question one time that somebody asked me, like, what's your elevator pitch? And it's like, buy local first. If you can't find it there, we're small batch cigars. That's what we are. But I would encourage you, if you want to try things and experience that community, try to buy local. But we are there if you need us. We're small batch.
And to your point, there's a lot of people in this country that live 4 or 5 hours away from a cigar store,
Of course.
and for you to give them, and my respect to you is that you're able to afford them that luxury of probably getting a cigar that they can't find anywhere near. Like if there's a guy in, anywhere in Montana, like where does he go to buy a cigar? He would like to go to a brick and mortar. You are a brick and mortar. I mean, for all intents and purposes. I mean, it's like you and 3 guys with a store. You just have a website. Yeah. So it's like the thing I respect about you is you're getting our cigars and everyone else's cigars to those guys that wish that they could walk into an actual physical store and buy them. So for all intents and purposes, in my book, you are a brick and mortar. You're just servicing people that, and I say servicing lightly because when I say Jeremy's servicing people, it means something different. So but I mean that, man. I mean, I think that you're really like adding the experience to people that don't generally have quick access to a store that would sell the products that they may want. So hats off to you, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that.
Well, with that, we should let Andrew peace out.
Are we going to have a musical artist to make the transition?
I thought you were a musical artist, Jeremy. That's the man. Andrew, thanks for coming on the show and for hanging out with us, man.
Cool, man. Brandon, do you just want to put me in the way? Do I just leave, or can I still watch?
I'm going to put you in the corner like this. Boom. And then now Andrew's in the corner. Now we have somebody who's waiting in the wings. I told him the clock is ticking. We're at 52 minutes. And I told him he should come on the show. I don't want to give away who it is, but anybody looking in the chat can see. But he is finishing dinner. So obviously his sustenance is more important than coming on and doing a shot with you guys.
What about checking in with Zach?
Well, let's check in with Zach.
We'll check in with Zach and see if our chat guest wants to jump in. We need some music for Zach. Zach, where is he?
Where is Zach? He's 30 seconds behind, sitting in a chair right next to me. Zach needs to find the link.
Where the fuck is Zach? He doesn't
have the link. Hold on.
I thought you were just gonna pan over to him. I'll send you the link. Hold on. I got it.
Well, he has like his own headphones in and stuff, so.
Oh, except that way he doesn't. Okay, hold on.
I don't have to. Then I don't have to talk for him.
How long is this story? I mean, like we're gonna go way over an hour now.
Well, I mean, they're gonna have to listen because if it gets very interesting very quickly.
No, I'm gonna hard cap on Zach too. He doesn't get special treatment.
No, he should because the story is so good.
Okay, I don't have Zach's phone number. So can one of you two clowns copy the link and put it to Zach?
I can't because I'm using my phone. And
that's right. We have to like
hold on. Here we go. Here it is. Did you receive the link?
We're so high tech. We're really refining this.
So here's Zach. He's ready to go. Our check-in with Zach is He doesn't have
Tony,
much.
there's a really important question from the chat right here. Really, it's a vital question. Will there be a Halloween party at Havana House this year?
It's
from
up
Wes
to
Jordan.
It's up to a man named Mr. Mike DeWine, Wes.
There you go.
If he lets us, we're in. And you're invited.
Oh, Zach, where are
Here
you?
I am.
Where are you? Where are you at?
It's a great question. I'm at a house. There's lots of art on the wall. I heard I was supposed to tell humble brag. It's not my art. I was told I'm supposed to tell a story from our lovely week in the Midwest and finding out that places are open now, but not crazy. So Tony and I got to go to the Midwest. We started in like Pittsburgh, Ohio, and then we got to Indianapolis, where we saw some accounts. We saw some new potential new accounts, and then we decided that it was time for us to kind of enjoy some friends that were in town for another show. And we did a great steak dinner at St. Elmo's, which was amazing. And then
That's where we went.
and then we went. Yes, hard, because right as the night started, Tony was kind enough to suggest that he had a bad feeling about the night, and it may or may not have paid off. Correct. It may or may not have paid off, and you could be the judge. But basically, from drinking at dinner, we went to Burn, which was a gorgeous lounge in downtown Indianapolis, and we continued to smoke and drink with some friends from St. Louis. I believe Grand Cru Cigars is their shop.
Yes.
And from there, we decided to just kind of explore the town. We decided to go to another place. We walked through an alley, and there was a great. Now I'm on two screens at once. That's perfect. Anyways, there was an alley where Tony decided it would be a really great idea if he could be Batman, and this meant climbing a fire escape.
It's a very logical thing.
And just remember, like in Youngstown, Ohio, they don't have fire escapes. So nobody's really sure what's going to happen. So me and another guy lift Tony up. He grabs a hold. And the minute we let go and the fire escapes start coming down, the fire alarm for the entire building goes off. So we drop him. And, he lands on the ground safe and sound, thankfully. And we run away and make up an excuse like we saw someone run down the alley and set off the fire alarm.
Mm.
It was good. It was good.
Who did you make up that excuse to?
I guess whoever guy was.
Yeah, I mean, whoever was listening.
You know what? Cheers to that.
All right.
But it gets better.
It gets better. It really does.
Okay, you got 4 minutes.
I had to drink 2 minutes. Okay, real quick. So we decide that the next place we're going to go to, we're going to hop on these Lime scooters, because we tried to take scooters at the beginning and they didn't work. So now we found some scooters. They worked. And we decided Tony was going to lead the pack, which may or may not have been a bad idea. So first corner, Tony gets across the street, almost runs into a wall, crashes the scooter like over the handlebars on the ground. And as we're running up, trying to get to him, he's already up and going. So he's good at this point. So we get almost to the next part. The curb is it's like a 6-inch curb. He jumps one and then runs into the other, and once again goes over the handlebars, crashes the scooter.
Jesus Christ.
So naturally, the guy at the door saw this, so he was like, "Oh no, we're already doing last call, because why would he let us in, right?"
He's like, "I don't want anything to do with this shenanigans."
Absolutely. So we're like, "Okay, well, we'll go back to the hotel. We'll sit in the courtyard. We'll enjoy some drinking." More drinking as per usual. And so we take off and we get going. Our friend that owns the other cigar lounge, he decides that it's a race. So he takes off and he's gone. And lo and behold, Tony and I are left alone. Well, Tony has 2 scooters that run out of batteries. So finally, we're like 30 minutes behind. So he hops on a 3rd scooter. Great, it works. And then as we get going, some 20-year-old-ish kid like runs out in front of him. And because Tony is a nice guy and decides to save this kid's life, instead of crashing into him, he falls off the scooter again, catches himself with a planter, and fucks up his knee, his foot, catches himself on his neck. But he saved this kid's life. And that's the most important thing, I think.
And I limped all. I have a brush burn on my knee, and I've limped all week.
Correct. And we were on the road. We've been on the road since like last Tuesday.
That really worries me, Zach, because on Saturday, Tony and I are supposed to celebrate my bachelor party weekend.
Well, why would it worry you?
I'm just saying that this story, I am not, the most outgoing of individuals. I'm like a more subdued person. So hearing this story of Tony's exploits with your time, I'm like, oh fuck, we're gonna have it's gonna get fucking ridiculous.
I'll leave it at letting you know that all of this should make you very excited for your bachelor party because it's going to be epic.
All right. Well, listen, yes. Zach, it's been real. We have a chat guest who has come on. And
thanks for joining us, Zach.
Yes, Zach, we're glad. We know you're not really gone. You're just over Tony's shoulder. But our chat guest, Hot Mike, is Steve Calla. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful may not live through that night. So Hot Mike's gonna come on. Mike, you've got 5 minutes to shoot your shot with Jeremy and Tony. That's the name of the segment. Fuck, we just got a name. This is shoot your shot.
And this, don't forget, Hot Mike, your boss is still in the waiting room. He can still hear you.
And
well, then let's prepare for a shot with our friend Mike.
Hot Mike.
He will definitely have. Well, let's get him in.
All right, let's bring him in. I'm gonna click him in. Here we go. Hot Mike, you got 5 minutes, and we're closing up the shop. And I'm feeling a little loose this time too. Good.
Oh, hey,
my man.
Wait, you don't have a shirt on? That's weird.
I'm in a bed, man. Oh, okay. Shot. There we go.
There we go. Cheers, friend.
Cheers.
Go for it.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. How you guys doing? I haven't seen either of you in a minute. I'm crippled in a bed. I'm just happy to see people right now.
Mike, this isn't a FaceTime. This is a very serious television show that we're doing here.
Since when? That's what I want to talk about. When did LaBarba and Caldwell get all serious? Remember when you guys used to be fun?
When did we get serious?
I don't know.
Remember that Jeremy clearly showed the outline of his penis earlier tonight. So if that's serious,
Jeremy would have shown his penis. He would have shown it.
We'll get banned off Facebook Live very quickly.
Jeremy,
sometimes you have to make a play and play the flag.
Jeremy bought that off Wish.com. He bought that off Wish.com. That thing that always comes up that has the outline of the penis. You know what I'm talking about? He bought that off Wish.com.
A penis sleeve. He got a little penis sleeve. Yeah.
Right.
You got 3 minutes, Hot Mike. This is what you want to do with your 5 minutes?
Good to see you, Mike.
It's good to see you, Mike.
I wish you were right here. I'd give you a nice hug. And you're just going for the close-up of the titty. All right.
It's good to see you guys, too. You know, like I said, I've been stuck in bed because my foot's all fucked up.
Well, what happened to your foot? You have 5 minutes to tell us about your foot.
5 minutes.
Back
in the day when I used to do beer stuff, I dropped a keg on it and I never got it fixed. And now I'm, paying the price for that fun stuff. Pretty sure there's like bone shards floating around all in my joints. It's good.
Steve just made a good point. Me showing the outline of my Widowmaker is pretty normal. I mean,
everyone on this, Drew, everyone has seen your penis. Not just the outline, but the actual thing.
That's what makes it weird is the outline. Like it should have just been out. I don't care if you get banned. You're only gonna get banned for a little bit. They'll let you back.
But we have so many sponsors.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by. It doesn't matter. We can have already content because we're sponsored by so many people.
Man, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to be like, you know what? This is like coffee with Jeremy in the morning. High seas piracy. Fuck the rules, Jeremy. Just do it. Do the thing.
I do my thing in the way I want to do my thing.
Exactly. We're gonna get pirate ship.
Yes.
Everybody vote for Jeremy and Tony for their inevitable run for presidency because everyone's running for president now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
See, we don't need to run. We're just gonna take it by force with the pirate ship. Remember?
That's true.
We don't need any votes. We're gonna take them.
We don't need votes when we have votes.
Yes.
At 25 seconds.
All right.
All right, bye
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brandon.
I love
Thank you, Brandon. For
Jeremy, I love you. Good seeing you guys. We'll go back.
Hot Mike, I love you.
Your
I love
foot
you
feels
too,
better soon.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
We still have to say goodbye to Drew too.
I want to tell you something really important, but
he stopped counting on his fingers. We don't know, Jeff.
Man, I was trying to make it like I was going to tell you something really important, and then have you cut him off. So it was like,
right, but you would still keep talking, and he would still hear you because he can hear even though he's not in the window.
But
so
I didn't really have anything to say to him,
right? So it kind of broke that.
Yeah.
Well,
Bye,
guys, let's see if we can end this here before we get to 1 hour 10. Thank everybody, Drew, Hot Mike, Zach, for coming on the show. Everybody in the chat, especially our Havana House fans and friends. And what did you say?
One for the road. And we got to say where to find us, right? We can do our little closeout.
Yeah, well, you can find us here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now we're staking our shit on this, okay?
I haven't made any since we started this. I haven't made any appointments for 8 o'clock as of yet.
And now we have an Instagram account, so please follow us, and then we'll be letting you know who's going to be our future guest. And we will do raffles and fun stuff like that down the road.
We're just trying to feel this out. We're trying to get a hang of this.
I mean, we just kind of need more than 10 people to watch the show before we can start raffling stuff off, because then everybody would get a raffle prize. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in participation prizes.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel about that, Tony?
I will.
So if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm the California Hillbilly. If you want to find Tony, you have two. You have a bunch of accounts.
I have a lot. I got Bellato, Bellatto. I have Lost and Found Cigars.
Account.
I have La Barba Cigars. And I have Youngstown Coffee Company.
Mm-hmm.
And then pull our guests back in before we end.
Which guest?
Do Drew first for his socials.
Is he still here?
Yeah.
Yay!
Still here. I'm just Small Batch Cigar on Instagram, and then we're on Facebook.
Such a humble
Small
man.
Batch Cigar. Yeah, that's where you can find us.
Such a humble man. Zach, where are you at?
He's still in the corner.
Still in the corner because that's where I belong. And I am at Z Harpold on Instagram, and just my name here as well on. Oh, I say here like they know, but that's on Facebook.
And then Hot Mike, we need Hot Mike. Where are you at, Hot Mike? What's your handles? Where do we find you?
Find me at Cal Drogo Mike.
I could have guessed.
That was a part of
I didn't want him to
coffee
respond.
and cigars. I love that.
So we're going to try to keep working out the bugs of this show. We want to keep making it better. But one of the best ways that you can help us, everybody in the chat, send us some comments underneath here, even after you can keep commenting on the video. Things that you liked, things you'd like to see, any kind of shit. Because we want to keep fine-tuning it, making the show better and better every week, having cool guests, drinking some good shots, and overall having a good time.
Thank you, guys. Play
right.
the song. Play the song. Can you play the song?
Oh yeah.
Wait,
Oh,
can we
Tony
do
wants.
Can we do
Yeah.
it on the outro too? Can we be
Yeah,
that?
he wants me to play it on the outs. Oh wait, that's
That's not
That's
here. You
That
do it.
was-
some sort of that's a Matrix.
Hold on. I wasn't ready to play it on the outs, so
I
now
text you. I think we should.
I
have
know,
the-
and I fucked
edge.
it up.
And
I'm
we
fucked
need to
it up.
have some credits roll too. I think.
We should just have 2 credits.
4 shots. 1 shot.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace out.
Join us for the after party.